G'day guys, Mackie with the Outer Circle, and today I'm doing the real review of the Citadel painting handle. So I've used the handle for the last week or so, not as a toy for stimulation with my partner or something like that, but actually as the painting handle it's intended to be. What have I found out about it in that time? Well, I've used it to paint this miniature here, among others. First things first, the springs have actually gotten a lot looser than when I first got it. So they're still pretty strong, but they don't look like they're going to pop the base and break it in half anymore. You can see the curvature is not there as much anymore. It's much flatter, just because it's crappy Chinese springs. It is a made in China product, of course. How have I found using the thing? Well, first things first, something I found out you can do, which they don't really advertise, but actually comes apart, and I believe it's the same size thread as a camera tripod. Don't know why that's helpful, but it's probably helpful to someone. So you can pull it off there. Now, it's very bottom heavy. While that seems like a good thing, it can be a bit of a pain in the ass at times, and you've got to be careful where you're holding the miniature. When you're trying to paint models on details on the top of the model, for example, sometimes you just can't get a steady grip on this thing and you end up touching the model, like especially on the tip of the cloak here. I don't know if it shows up in film. In fact, I'm certain it doesn't. But it's actually worn through to the base coat in a couple of spots because the paint is quite thin, because I keep putting my thumb on there to steady the miniature when I'm painting detail, because I'm not happy gripping all the way down here. Perhaps using this thing over time, I will test and adjust and find what does work best for me. But as it stands, yeah, I find myself gripping higher and higher up on this, and it's really only designed to be gripped down here. And I keep wanting to grip like up here, putting the ball of it into the palm of my hand. It's kind of working, kind of not working for me. Overall, the miniature itself was easy to paint on it. I don't know how this thing would go painting. I did use the airbrush on the miniature for base coating it and putting on the clear red inside the handle, and the overspray hasn't affected the handle at all. I am a bit worried though that underspray, especially on the smaller sized bases which don't cover it up as much, if I were to put like a 25mm base in, for example, I'm worried that paint will build up inside this part here and eventually sort of gunk it up over time, and you can't really pull it apart to clean it. So I think that's definitely something to be cognizant of. The best thing you could sort of do to eliminate that, apart from just soaking it in thinners, would be to flip it over like this and just sort of scrape away at it, maybe with like a scalpel or a fine tool. That's really all you could do. And again, if you use like certain harmful thinners, compounds, cleaners, you do risk dissolving this plastic. I don't know what plastic this is. I don't think it's acrylic. It actually feels more like nylon. I'm pretty certain it's a nylon. So nylon's a very stable plastic anyway, but better to be safe than sorry. Acetone melts pretty much any kind of plastic. So stay away from that. Stay away from brake clean, that kind of thing. The metal parts will survive, but I don't know if the rest of it will. Yeah, overall, it's been a pretty good thing to use. Some suggestions: I do think you can paint larger models. Like I've got these dreadnoughts that I'm working on at the moment, where I've been converting box dreads with havoc launchers / hunter killers on the undersides of the torsos. Now with those, if I were to paint them, I think you could paint them in this. The way you do it though is just quickly super glue a tiny, like a 25mm or a 32mm base to it. Just a single droplet of super glue, because you're not looking for a permanent bond, just a temporary one. And then clipping that base into the holder, and potentially you could put larger sized bases into this thing. And I think for larger miniatures, it'll probably work better. The bottom heaviness of the handle will work in your favor with a very heavy model up the top. Obviously, test and adjust. Don't just go straight for the massive model on it, because if you go for something like, I don't know, a resin Leviathan, it could be just too heavy for that bond and just snap off the little base that you're holding in here. So yeah, that's something to keep in mind. One last little thing, models aside. Well, actually, I'm grabbing a model anyway. Some people want to see my Thunder Warrior and hear about the conversion process for it. So this little guy here, and again, I don't know how well focused it is. It's a Sigmarite body with the Mark III marine arms. I tried to make a sort of clunkier looking backpack, so I've used the Mark II III backpack, but I put on melter gun nozzles as nacelles to make it look like it's a really sort of smoke belching inferior product. I've kept some of the lightning bolt iconography off the Sigmarite miniature. However, I've also added iconography in the form of these decals on the shoulders and some really tanned skin on the miniature. But he's got good detail in the face as well. I used a plastic plasma gun with a plastic bolt gun mounted at the front of it with the magazine moved up to the front, because on the old Thunder Warrior miniature made by Games Workshop in the Armour of Ages series, that's what he was armed with. He was armed with this sort of hybrid bolt gun, plasma gun, and I just wanted to sort of rejig that design maybe into something that looks a little bit more plausible. I mean, it's still not. But yeah, I'll also chuck like a close-up picture of him up next to the old school model, just so you can sort of see where I'm at. This is obviously a 40mm base, and you can see a Terminator for comparison. And that's a Cataphractii Terminator. So yeah, he's pretty big, but that's kind of what the Thunder Warriors are described like. I also added a bolt pistol at the waist. So yeah, anyway, that's the Games Workshop painting handle. Hope this has been some help to people who are considering it. I do think it's a good product. For all those who think we just shit on Games Workshop, it is actually a good product. And I don't know that I'd buy more than one or two of them. But yeah, I think it's worth it. I still think that for $12 Australian, the old paint cap lid with a bit of blue tack on it that I normally use is probably just as good. But in its defense, I've never, the whole time I was painting this model on it, not once did he fall out, which has happened to me with blue tack before. So there is that, like, you know, I'll be walking in through the side door of my house after spray painting, bump my elbow on the wall, the jolt knocks the model off. The blue tack happens all the bloody time. That's just clumsiness though. So yeah, Games Workshop painting handle. I'm Mac with the Outer Circle. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time.